Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over and talking about the Ravens' 38-30 loss to the Detroit Lions in Week 3 of this NFL season. This game is played in Baltimore, at home, primetime game, Monday Night Football. Blackout uniforms, everything was in the Ravens' favor heading into this game. They were favored by 4.5 points. Obviously, we don't want to take, odds and everything like that too seriously, but, everybody on the pregame shows, everybody was picking the Ravens, everybody was picking the Ravens everywhere, and I guess this is just karma because the Ravens went out there today and got absolutely destroyed in the trenches aspect of the game. The Lions seem like the more physical team. They seem like they wanted it more. The Ravens before the game, they look energized. They look ready to go. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Ravens didn't want to win. But what I am going to say is that the Lions really did, go on the road in Baltimore, one of the hardest places to play in the NFL. And they looked more physical than the Ravens, and that's the Ravens' entire personality and their entire identity. So shout out to the Lions. I'll say that right now. Shout out to the Detroit Lions. The Ravens really haven't been, tossed around like this in a few years now, really. The Lions had complete control over the game, at least in the second half. And even in the first half, they looked like they had a lot of control. They looked like the better team throughout the game. The Ravens had plenty of chances to get into this game and to win. But unfortunately, due to the defense, due to the offensive line, they just could not get any sort of rhythm really going throughout this game, especially on the offensive end. The defense was a disaster. We know this. We understand how awful this defense is, but it really, really, really got proven tonight on national TV once again. You go back to Week 1 against the Bills. That game obviously was on Sunday Night Football where Josh Allen and the Bills ended up coming back. The Ravens were up 15 with 3 minutes left. The Bills ended up coming back and winning the game, dropping 41 on our head. And then today the Lions dropped 38 on our head. So overall, the Ravens defense got absolutely destroyed again. They got outrushed in this game, 285 to 90 or something like that. This was the most yards given up. This is the most rushing yards ever given up by a Ravens defense in the John Harbaugh era. And you kind of look back at the Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed days. And, but they would be so unbelievably disappointed in how this Ravens team this year and honestly last year has been playing under Zach Orr. And we're going to have a lot of conversations about Zach Orr. This episode is probably going to be quite long, because there is a lot to go over in this game. The Ravens, most of the time when the Ravens lose, obviously go back to Week 1, you go back to the loss to Buffalo in the playoffs, you go back to a lot of losses they had this year, and the Ravens really didn't necessarily beat themselves in this game. I'm not going to sit here and go in here and complain that we lost to ourselves or that the Ravens beat the Ravens, because no, our offensive line played like garbage, our defense played like garbage, and the Lions were the better team today and they won. And that's just how it is. That's how it is right now. The Ravens played a very talented team in the Lions, and now we're sitting at 1-2 heading into Week 3 or heading into Week 4 against Kansas City on the road, where Lamar has never won in Kansas City in his career. So it's going to be the 1-2 Chiefs versus the 1-2 Ravens next week. So that's going to be very interesting because a former, multi-time MVP, one of those teams are going to fall to 1-3. So people are either going to look at the Chiefs being 1-3 and freak out, or people are going to look at the Ravens being 1-3 and freak out. So either way, it's not a great position to be in. The Ravens have clear problems on offense and defense to kind of point out in this game that we're going to go over, because the problems in this game were clear and obvious. We're going to talk about the Derrick Henry fumble. Derrick Henry did fumble and lose the ball on his own 20-yard line in this game, on our own 20-yard line in this game. So that is now 2 times in 3 weeks where Derrick Henry has lost a fumble. And even in the Browns game, he fumbled, but he ended up recovering it. So Derrick Henry's having a hard time holding on to the ball. This is literally a first for him in his entire career. This has never been a problem for him. He fumbled going into this season. He fumbled 2 times in 4 years. He's fumbled twice here in the first 3 games of the season. And the fumble in Week 1 and the fumble, obviously, tonight, really, really, really did play a part in his team losing the game. But I'm not going to blame this game fully on the Derrick Henry fumble, because there was a lot of other aspects to it. I don't even know if the Ravens would have gone down and been able to go down and score on that drive anyway. And the defense did hold them to 3, so it could have technically been worse. But either way, The Ravens lose this game 38-30. The Ravens were able to score a touchdown at the end of the game. Not necessarily garbage time because the Ravens still could have won the game. They had all their timeouts, so it wasn't really garbage time. But they lost 38-30. The offense dropped 30 points. There's some positives in this game, and there's also a lot of negatives in this game. And the negatives are every single player on defense. Every single player on defense is a negative in this game. There wasn't a single play made in this game. The Ravens' streak of 57 games in a row with recording at least one sack in a game is now over. The Ravens did not record a single sack in this game. They didn't force a turnover. They didn't do anything. They let the Lions absolutely dog walk them down the field over and over and over. They sprinkled in a few stops here and there. But at the end of the day, it really didn't matter because in the second half, they completely just dominated, and the Ravens offense looked good in the first half. You know, it could have been better. They had a chance to score a touchdown when they were inside the 5-yard line. They went forward on all 4 downs and didn't get it. And they scored 0 points on that drive. So that was a big blemish, but obviously the other thing was the offensive line all game. All game long, the offensive line was absolute garbage. Lamar Jackson would snap the ball, he'd look around, he'd try and make a play for himself, run for his life, and just get sacked. He did that quite a lot this game. I don't necessarily know if there were too many people open downfield. I don't know if he could have thrown the ball, but Lamar Jackson, in his mind, he did seem a little bit fidgety in terms of trying to find a play, but most of the time, and he also had a couple of overthrows in this game. I'm not going to sit here and come on here and say Lamar Jackson played absolutely perfect because he didn't. There was a lot of plays in this game where we've seen Lamar Jackson be Houdini and run out of sacks and throw and just make magic happen. And he did that on a couple of plays. But there was also times in this game where Lamar Jackson would, just look a little fidgety and, had a couple of overthrows in this game. But by no means did Lamar Jackson play bad in this game at all. He played great. And the offensive line and the pressure that he was under all game long really just put a complete dent in this offense and what they were able to do. Lamar just could not get it going on offense, and I want to say they couldn't get it going on offense. They still scored 30 points in this game with no help from their defense, by the way. So the Ravens still scored 30 points in this game, and it still just kind of feels like the offense could have done even better, and just due to the offensive line just kind of ruining some drives. And I felt the exact same way last week in the Browns game. The offensive line in the Browns game last week wasn't great. It was better than what it was today, but the Ravens just didn't really execute on some plays that you would like to see in last week's Browns game. They still ended up dropping 40, but that kind of just goes to show how unbelievably good Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense is because I would even say that this is a little bit of a down day for the offense because the offense just could not get it going in the second half consistently wise with the sacks and everything like that. But the Ravens were still able to go out there and drop 30 points today, so there obviously is some positives in this game. But overall, it was a disaster. The defense was an absolute disaster. It put the offense in positions where they were kind of forced to score every single time, and the offensive line was just so unbelievably bad tonight that the Ravens just it was too much. It was too much for the Ravens. We've seen the Ravens do some magical things in the regular season. We've seen them pull off some amazing things. We've seen Lamar Jackson come back in games. We've seen him just go blow for blow with the other team, just score. The offensive line and how they played today, it was too much for the Ravens offense to overcome it and just do enough, if that makes sense. So it was too much for the Ravens offense. The Lions defense played incredible today. The Ravens offensive line played horrible, and it was too much for the Ravens offense to really go out there and score 40 or 50 points. They still were able to drop 30 points, but unfortunately they still lose this game by 1 score. They lose by 8 points. So there is positives, there's negatives. The defense again was horrible, but let's just get into this Ravens game. So going over this Ravens game, obviously a 38-30 loss to the Detroit Lions. The Ravens are now 1-2 on the season. And what really sucks about this game is, one, obviously everyone picked the Ravens to win this game for a good reason. They've had the Lions number, or Lamar's really had the Lions number in the past. Also, we're at home. We're on primetime, where Lamar Jackson's played incredible on Monday Night Football. And when you look at Lamar Jackson's stat line, it looks like he played incredible once again. He had 288 passing yards. He had 6 incompletions in this game. Went 21 for 27, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, and he also had 35 rushing yards as well. Lamar Jackson, running-wise, didn't really get there. He had some design runs, couldn't really get home on too many of those. But again, on some of them, he was literally just, he would go in the pocket, he snapped the ball, go in the pocket, look for a play downfield, would feel the pressure, the play wouldn't really even be able to develop, and then Lamar would try and do something, and he ended up getting sacked. Or he would run or try to escape and only get like a couple of yards. So that was kind of the day for Lamar Jackson. You got to feel bad for him. When he had time, he was finding the guys downfield. He had a couple mishaps here and there, but that happens to every quarterback. But again, Lamar Jackson played great, and 148 quarterback rating. I mean, you can't really ask for more from your franchise quarterback, and it sucks that you lose a game when he plays this well. But Lamar Jackson took 7 sacks in this game, 7 sacks for 55 yards. The O-line just did not help him in any sort of way, and Jared Goff took 0 sacks. Jared Goff did not get sacked a single time in this game. He was scot-free, sitting in the pocket, was able to deliver dimes when he needed to, and the Lions runners were able to run all over the Ravens. The Lions rushed for 224 yards and had 4 touchdowns on the ground. David Montgomery had 151 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Jameer had 67 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So overall, just not a great game from the Ravens defense at all. We'll go over that in just a second, but continuing to go over the offense. Derrick Henry in this game, obviously, we'll talk about his fumble in just a second, but Derrick Henry had 12 carries in this game. Last week he had 11 carries for 23 yards. This week he had 12 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. But if you go and look at the first drive of this game for the Ravens, Derrick Henry had 34 rushing yards on the first drive of the game for the Ravens. Like, Derrick Henry literally had what was it, like a 24-yard rush or a 25-yard rushing touchdown on the first drive of the game. That's what got the scoring started for the Ravens in the first quarter. The Ravens, it was 7-7 after the first quarter, but Derrick Henry was able to get it to find a hole, had good blocks from his offensive lineman. It was the best that they looked all day, but Derrick Henry got a 25-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter, and he looked great. He had 34 yards on the first drive of the game. They were showing the stat, like you look back at last week, he had 23 yards the entire game, and on the first drive of today's game, he had 34 yards. So it looked like one of those games where Derrick Henry was going to end up having like 150 or even 200 yards in this game with the way he was running in the first quarter, or not even in the first quarter, with the way he was running on the first drive. And after the first drive of the game, Derrick Henry had, I think, 14 or 16 yards the rest of the game after the opening drive. So Derrick Henry was a complete non-factor in this game from the rest of the first quarter, all of the second quarter, all of the third quarter, and then obviously in the fourth quarter he had that costly fumble when the Ravens were really trying to get back into the game. So again, Derrick Henry was a non-factor in this game for pretty much the entire time. He had a really good 28-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter, but other than that, he did nothing in this game, and he cost the team with the fumble. Obviously, when you look back at it, the fumble, in terms of what the Lions did with it, didn't really affect the game, but it did take a possession away from the Ravens. And once again, the Ravens lost the turnover battle because of Derrick Henry. And again, Derrick Henry's incredible. We understand how good of a running back he is. We understand how good of a running back he can be. And Derrick Henry in his career has never had fumble problems, ever. We understand this. He had, going into this season, he had 2 fumbles in 4 years. He's had 2 fumbles in 3 games. And not only has he had 2 fumbles in 3 games, he's had 2 costly fourth quarter fumbles in 3 games. So not great from Derrick Henry. Not a good performance. It's now back-to-back performances where Derrick Henry has not performed well. I'm not going to sit here and say it's because of his age. I mean, maybe that has something to do with the fumbles or whatever, but the fumble that he had today, Aiden Hutchinson knocked it out. It wasn't like Derrick Henry just dropped the ball. Aiden Hutchinson made a good play on Derrick Henry, but still it was a fumble. You could see the frustration that Derrick Henry had on the sideline. You could see how much it upset him, obviously, to put his team in this position. And now the Ravens are sitting at 1-2, and it's not really the best look because the next 3 games the Ravens play the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Rams, who are teams that can give you problems. And obviously Kansas City, we understand what Kansas City has done to Baltimore, so it does put you in a little bit of a bad scenario. But this was a great game for viewers. You know, the Ravens are usually an amazing team to watch in terms of like entertainment, and so are the Lions. They put on a show today. Again, shout out to the Lions, but the Ravens just really struggled in this game to the running game did not get going. I mean, Lamar Jackson, some of his runs were not even really designed. It was him just running for his life. And then Derrick Henry, again, he was a non-factor after the first drive of the game. He did nothing, and you know, I don't even want to say he was a non-factor because he did play a part in this game by fumbling in the fourth quarter. So again, Derrick Henry, not a great look for him. Obviously, he is older. You know, people are going to be kind of more critical in his mistakes because of how good of a running back he is, and also just his age and stuff like that. Am I going to sit here and say Derrick Henry is washed and that he's not going to do anything the rest of the season? No, because we've seen Derrick Henry his entire career play amazing, and even after some bad games, he's always followed up with good games. And while it was looking that Derrick Henry was going to have a great game, he just did not do anything in this game for a vast majority of this game. He just didn't do anything. He was getting stopped on a lot of his drives. But it also had to do with the offensive line as well. So Derrick Henry didn't play a great game. The offensive line really didn't help him after the first drive. And also the fumble just makes it look even worse on him. So I'm not going to sit here and fully blame this game on Derrick Henry because there was other problems other than the fumble. Just like the game against Buffalo. I don't want to sit there and just blame the game on the Derrick Henry fumble in the Buffalo game because there was other problems as well that contributed, and it was the exact same thing in this game. Another heartbreaking game that the Ravens really just got tossed around in. And the Ravens stayed in it. They stayed in the game the entire time. The Lions kind of pulled away late. The Ravens were able to come back and make it an 8-point game, but eventually the Lions were able to get a win. Again, as I've said, and this is going to be kind of the motto of the game, with how bad the defense played and how bad the O-line played, it was too much on the Ravens offense to just try and find a way into this game. And again, shout out to the Lions. They played incredible. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, the Ravens beat themselves, blah, 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 because they didn't. They didn't beat themselves. They didn't play well. Like the Lions played better than the Ravens. And the last time that I really felt like that in a game, in a Ravens loss, was probably the Eagles game, but even in that game, like Justin Tucker had some big missed kicks as well. So, but the Eagles in that game really did play well against the Ravens. But again, Ravens, not a great game for them running wise. Derrick Henry couldn't really get anything going because the O-line was creating zero holes for him, especially when they were at the inside the 5-yard line and they couldn't score. So Derrick Henry couldn't really get it going the rest of the game. The O-line didn't help him at all, couldn't get him any holes, and then obviously the fumble made his day look even worse. But on the first drive, he looked great, but after that, the O-line just decided to be a literal brick wall for the Ravens' offense, for them to not actually move and go anywhere. I guess the Lions' defense was kind of a wall for us. But going over the receiving in this game, Lamar did spread the ball out in this game a lot more than he has in the first two games. In the first two games of the year, Lamar was really just targeting Zay Flowers and DeAndre Hopkins as well in those first two games of the season. And he did spread the ball out a lot more in this game. If you can see here on the top, you can see Mark Andrews was the leading reception. He led the team in receptions, led the team in yards, and led the team in touchdowns. Mark Andrews was incredible. Today was a vintage Mark Andrews performance. This is what we've been waiting to see. He's been a complete non-factor, and he's been pretty much invisible for the first two games of the year. He had 2 catches in the first 2 games of the season, and then he goes out here today and has 6 catches for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a touchdown early, and then he also had the touchdown later on. He had the touchdown right out of half, and then he also had the touchdown in the fourth quarter. So both of the touchdowns the Ravens scored in the second half were to Mark Andrews. So shout out to him. Shout out to Mark. It's really, really, really cool to see him have the confidence, and it's really cool to see him go out there and play well in this game, because we've been waiting for Mark Andrews to kind of show his face and reveal himself, and especially with Isaiah most likely coming back next week. That tight end duo seems to be just as lethal as it was throughout the regular season last year. So it's going to be cool to see Isaiah Likely come back, but it also is really cool to see Mark Andrews come out here and play very, very well and really gain his confidence back, which is what I really think he needed, and this was the type of game to do it. So this is one of the positives of this game. Obviously, the first positive being Lamar Jackson. He played great. He did his thing. He got sacked 7 times. It's hard to win a game when your quarterback gets sacked 7 times and the opposing quarterback gets sacked none. But the Ravens were still able to make it close because, they fought. They did. Rashad Bateman in this game, he played great. Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman were 2 guys who in the first 2 weeks of the season really didn't do anything. Rashad Bateman didn't really do anything the first 2 weeks. Mark Andrews didn't really do anything the first 2 weeks. But they both ended up being the 2 leading receivers for the Ravens. Rashad had 5 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. He had multiple, he had 2 or 3 really, really clutch first down catches. He also had the touchdown catch as well. Shout out to Rashad Bateman. Glad to see him get involved in this game. And obviously that is another positive. Starting to see Rashad Bateman do his thing, kind of break out, do his thing in this game, get involved in this offense. So moving forward, Rashad Bateman looks good, Mark Andrews look good, so on and so forth. Justice Hill in this game had 3 catches for 45 yards. Don't get it twisted. This was not again, at the end of the game, I don't want to say it was garbage time because it wasn't. The Ravens were down by 14 points with 2 minutes left. They had a chance to, score. They had a chance to score and potentially get the ball back. So it wasn't really garbage time, even though the Lions were up by 14. It was kind of garbage time, but not really, because the Ravens still could have potentially gotten the ball back. So anytime that happens, defenses aren't going to sit there and kind of just relax, because again, anything can happen in the NFL. We know that. But Justice Hill had a really good broken tackle and a nice 37-yard gain. But Justice Hill did have some miscommunications with Lamar in this game. Lamar was passing it to him on a wheel route. Miscommunication that was on 3rd down. We ended up having to punt after that. But Justice Hill, three catches for 45 yards. Devontae Walker made his impact in this game. He only had 1 target in this game, but he had 1 catch for 34 yards. A really big catch in this game, which I think that was the catch that the Ravens didn't end up scoring on. So it didn't even matter that Devontae Walker made that catch because we didn't even end up scoring anyway. But Devontae Walker did his thing with that 1 catch. It's nice to see him involved and out there for this offense. Charlie Kolar had 2 catches for 22 yards. DeAndre Hopkins only had 1 catch for 13 yards. Zay Flowers had 2 catches for 13 yards. Derrick Henry had 1 catch for 7 yards. So those were all the guys that caught passes in this game by Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers and DeAndre Hopkins, who were the 2 guys that were really involved weeks 1 and 2, were the 2 receivers that were involved the least in this game. So, Lamar did spread the ball out today, did, target different people. But seeing Mark Andrews do good, seeing Rashad Bateman do good, does make me more excited for the offense going into the future with the pass catchers. Because obviously Rashad Bateman had a Rashad Bateman-like game, so you move forward with that. So did Mark Andrews. We understand what Zay Flowers can do. We understand what DeAndre Hopkins can do. So you move forward with this group of pass catchers, and you're going to get Isaiah Likely back as well. So this pass-catching group is going to be great. We understand the plays that they can make. But also in this game, and again, we might have to look at some stuff later, but when the ball was getting snapped, Lamar would have the ball, snap the ball, drop back, look for a minute, feel pressure, run around, get sacked. Most of the time that would end up happening. And I don't think receivers necessarily got open every single play for Lamar Jackson. Again, defenses are going to play good defense sometimes on you, and the Lions have good players on their defense. But Lamar Jackson really, really, really did just feel the pressure in this game and ended up getting sacked 7 times. Am I going to sit here and say that all 7 of them were not his fault? No. I would say there was 2 of them where Lamar would snap the ball, look downfield, try and make a play, and get sacked. Because either someone's not getting open for him or he's just trying to make a play internally for himself, just thinking that he can go do it all, which we've seen him do before, so I don't even blame him for that. But again, the receivers, Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman had big games. Both of those guys had the 3 touchdowns in this game. Zay Flowers did not play great. DeAndre Hopkins did not play great. We didn't even really give Zay Flowers the ball at all, so I can't really blame him there. Obviously he's going to be used more as we go on throughout this season, but it was just a weird game because some of the game plans and some of the throws that we made kind of had to be changed because Lamar was under pressure a lot in this game. Even on some completions he made, he was under pressure. But going over to the fumbles, as you can see here, Derrick Henry lost the fumble in the fourth quarter. The Lions ended up getting a field goal out of it. The Ravens actually made a stop on that drive because it was a fumble on our own 20-yard line. The Ravens ended up getting the ball back, obviously, after that. But the Derrick Henry fumble for the Lions, obviously they got a field goal out of it. But for the Ravens, it took away a possession in a game that they were losing, which is way more important. Even though the defense held them to 3, which is good, it took away a possession for the Ravens. So obviously, it ended up not being good at all. The Ravens were losing 28-24 at the time of the fumble. So if the Ravens were able to make a 20-yard or a 75-yard drive down the field, if the Ravens were able to move 75 yards down the field and get a touchdown, they would have taken the lead with 3 or 2 minutes left in the game. But instead, Derrick Henry gave the ball right back to them on the first play of the game, or on the first play of the drive, I should say. And, after that, it kind of just felt like the game was over from there. Going over to the defense, we're not even going to go over any specific stats on defense because everybody here did not have a good game. TJ Tampa made a good tackle on special teams, which is cool. Didn't matter because they ended up scoring, but everybody on this defense, nobody necessarily had any sort of big games, big plays. Malachi Starks had a tackle for loss. Roquan had a tackle for loss. John Jenkins had a tackle for loss. Odafe Owe had a tackle for loss. So shout out to them. Nate Wiggins also had the only pass deflection of the game, so shout out to Nate. He made one good play, one big play when the time came for it. Obviously, there was some individual plays that were nice to see from the Ravens defense, but again, when you're on defense, you got to hold them for 4 downs or for 3 downs and the punt. You know what I'm saying? One good play doesn't necessarily mean that the defense is just going to do good. And the Ravens put the Lions in third down a lot this game, and the Ravens defense would allow the Lions just to roll down the field and do whatever they wanted to the Ravens in this game. If we go over to kind of the more team stats based, the Lions had more first downs than the Ravens, 24-21. The Lions had 12 more total plays than the Ravens in this game. The Lions had 108 more total yards than the Ravens. So the Lions outgained the Ravens on offense. The Lions had more total drives than the Ravens. They had 1 more total drive. The Lions had more yards per play than the Ravens. The Ravens had more passing yards. The Lions, and this was the big one, obviously the first downs and everything. But if you go over and look actually at the third downs, the Lions in this game were 7 for 14 on third down. The Ravens were 6 for 11. But the 7 for 14 might not sound that good, but the Lions were 3 for 3 on fourth down in this game. And those fourth down conversions that the Lions ended up getting really was a big decider in this game. We understand Dan Campbell. We understand how he coaches. We understand that he's always going to go for it on fourth down. So the Lions go 3 for 3 on third down, or on fourth down. The Ravens go 0 for 1 on fourth down, which was a touchdown that they missed out on. So this fourth down efficiency right here was a huge part of this game. 3 for 3 for the Lions, 0 for 1 for the Ravens. A big X factor in this game. Also, the total plays, the Lions did run more total plays than the Ravens. The Lions had the ball longer. They had 7-ish more minutes of possession than the Ravens did. And obviously, the Ravens lost the turnover battle, 0-1, just like they did in the Buffalo game. The Ravens against the Bills were not able to force a turnover while Derrick Henry fumbled, and it's the same thing in this game. The Ravens defense was not able to force a fumble or force a turnover for the Lions, but the Lions were able to force a fumble out of Derrick Henry. So the exact same thing kind of in that category for same as the Bills game. The penalties, the Lions actually had quite a bit of penalties in this game, and we were kind of gifted quite a lot of penalty yardage in this game. The Lions had 8 penalties for 68 yards. So I'm not going to, the refs didn't, screw us in this game or something. The refs, in a way, had some pretty bad calls on Detroit in this game. There was some plays that got flagged on Detroit, and it wasn't necessarily really, should have been called all the time. So just kind of adds to the embarrassment that, the Lions had 5 more penalties than the Ravens and like 70 or like 58 more penalty yards than the Ravens, and they still ended up winning the game. That's just how much they whooped our ass in this game, to be honest with you. In the red zone, this is another thing. Just like the fourth downs, obviously the Lions 3 for 3 on fourth downs. If you go here and you look at the red zone in this game, the Lions were 4 for 5 in this game in the red zone. The Lions were automatic anytime they got down there. They were 4 for 5. The Ravens were 2 for 4 in the red zone. Again, like leaving points just completely on the board, not scoring a touchdown when you get in the red zone, which obviously is expectation with this Ravens team, with the guys that you have. I think back to the drive where we got down to the 5-yard line and we handed it to Derrick Henry. He got 4 yards. We were down at the 1. It was second and goal at the 1-yard line. We ran it with Derrick Henry. Second and goal now it's third and goal at the 1. Then we ran it again, fourth and goal at the 1. And then Lamar went to go pass it and then ended up, getting sacked and not getting it and actually fumbling the ball and recovering it, which was fourth and goal. So when you have Derrick Henry, and the same exact type of thing happened in the Browns game where we didn't convert on 4 downs at the 1 or inside the 5 or at the 1-yard line. The same exact thing happened against the Browns. That happened on a drive for the Ravens in this game that did end up being costly now that you look at the score. But the Ravens, when the Baltimore Ravens are inside the 5-yard line, there is zero reason why they cannot score a touchdown. If there's any team in the NFL, maybe other than Philly because of the tush push, if there's any team in the NFL that should be automatic inside the 5, it is this team with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on your team. Derrick Henry, obviously his stats don't look great. If you watch the game, you could see that other than the first drive, he was getting absolutely stuffed anytime he got the ball, and then he fumbled, which didn't make his day look any better. Obviously, I'm going to blame him for that, but on a lot of carries he had, especially on that 1-yard line drive where we missed the touchdown, Derrick Henry did not get in because the O-line would collapse instantly. And also, it was great from the Lions defense as well. The Lions defense played really good. They played very physical in this game as well. I don't want to discredit them and say that they didn't play well, because they did. But the fact that Derrick Henry can't get in is a little odd. You kind of got to look to coaching, and you kind of got to look to the offensive line, because it's not Derrick Henry not getting in. We understand Derrick Henry at the 1-yard line. If he can't get in, you can't sit there and just completely blame that on him. He's getting tackled immediately when the balls get snapped. So they understand it's going into him, yeah, but any sort of hole, any sort of opening for him to reach his arms out, any sort of hole from the push forward, there just wasn't that. It was a complete brick wall every time we tried to run the ball, with Derrick Henry after the first drive of the game where he had that 28-yard rushing touchdown. Yeah, overall, a very disappointing game. Again, I do want to kind of go through the drives of this game. Kind of looking at all the drives. Obviously, the game started off with a touchdown drive for the Lions. It was an 11-play, 67-yard drive that lasted 5 minutes. This is what started the game for the Lions. They set the tone early, went up 7-0. They went out there and did their thing. Obviously, the Lions are a great team. They're a great offense. I'm not sitting here saying that we lost to some bums, because the Lions are not a bum team. They are a great team. They have a great offense, so it's not surprising that they went out and scored 38 points. It's just a little surprising how awful this Ravens defense is with the names that they have out there, and also just how bad the offensive line played in this game. And then, in the second drive of the game, for the Ravens, obviously the Lions scored a touchdown. They went up 7-0 early. Then the Ravens got the ball next. They had a nice 6-play, 80-yard drive that lasted 3 minutes. This was the Derrick Henry rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry, 28-yard rushing touchdown. That was that play. Obviously, the first drive of the game for the Ravens, they went out, they scored, they answered, they responded. Tie game again, 7-7. Then the Ravens defense actually got a stop early. It was a 3-play drive. The Lions ended up punting. Then the Ravens got the ball back. A 3-play drive, 7 yards, ended up punting. This was where the miscommunication was. The incomplete pass to Justice Hill was just a miscommunication, one of those plays. Then this was one of the 2 drives in this game that really stood out for me in terms of how the defense played. And this one really, 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 really stands out. This drive right here If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see it. But I'm going to read it out. At the end of the first quarter and at the start of the second quarter, and it bled all the way into like halfway through the second quarter, the Lions had, after the Ravens punted, so both teams at this point, up until this Lions possession, both teams have scored a touchdown and both teams have punted. So as of right now, it's looking chill. It's 7-7, whatever. Jordan Stout and the special teams put the Lions down all the way inside their own 2-yard line. When you're a defensive coordinator, when you're a defensive player, this is literally a match made in heaven. This is a dream scenario for you to see the offense that you're defending inside like the 5-yard line, and especially inside their own 2-yard line, because obviously if an interception happens, you put them in good field position. Any sort of turnover happens, puts them in good field position. There's a potential for a safety if you can get pressure, all that stuff. So there's like when an offense is pinned inside their own 5-yard line or so, it's obviously always very, very, very scary, and they try and run their way out of it. So the Lions were pinned inside their own 2-yard line. And the Lions proceeded to have one of the most pathetic, the Ravens defense ended up having one of the most pathetic showings of defense I've ever seen in my entire life. It was ridiculous what they ended up doing. Because then the Lions ended up having an 18-play, 98-yard, 10-minute and 48-second touchdown drive. The Lions marched down the field on their own 2-yard line, on the road in Baltimore, crazy crowd, primetime football. And this is where I give the Lions the respect. And I've given them respect all video. This is where I really give the Lions a lot of respect in this game, because they were able to go on the road and whoop us, to be honest with you. They absolutely put BTA in this game. And this drive right here is where things looked terrifying for the Ravens. Obviously, the Lions' first drive of the game, 11-play drive, 67 yards, touchdown, whatever. Ravens ended up responding. When the Lions ended up having an 18-play, 98-yard touchdown drive that lasted almost 11 minutes, this drive right here, it was the Lions' third drive of the game. This drive right here was over 1/6 of the entire game, was this one drive. A 98-yard touchdown drive. As you can see, 4-yard run, negative 1-yard run, 10-yard pass with a first down. A 13-yard pass with the first down. 5-yard run, negative 3-yard run. All of a sudden it's 3rd and 8. 14-yard pass with the first down. 0-yard run, 9-yard run. Now it's 2nd and 10. 9-yard run. Now it's 3rd and 1. Then a 9-yard pass. They convert on back-to-back third downs to open up the drive. Then an 8-yard run, then a 10-yard run, then a 1-yard run, then an 8-yard run, then a 2-yard run, then a 7-yard pass, and then a 1-yard touchdown run for Dave Montgomery. And absolutely just a bleeding Ravens defense. Obviously, the injuries to Madubuike did take a toll. You can very, 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 very clearly see how much Justin, or not Justin, that was formerly, you can see how much Nnamdi Madubuike was missed in this game for the Ravens. You could see how much Kyle Van Noy was missed in this game for the Ravens, because those two guys, Kyle Van Noy obviously being arguably the Ravens' best pass rusher, and Madubuike being one of the best D tackles in the league and one of the best run stoppers in the league, and also being someone who can create a lot of pressure for a quarterback. Those two guys were missing in this game for the Ravens. Obviously, it was a big blow, but I didn't really think too much of it, because again, the Ravens have a lot of talented players. They have a lot of next man up players, from rookies like Mike Green to Aeneas Peebles. And what I'll say about Mike Green real quick, I did see him get some pressure a little bit. So I'm not going to sit here and say, again, no one had a standout game on defense. But Madubuike was very much missed in this game. Madubuike was missed. Kyle Van Noy was very much missed. You wish that you could have had them in this game when the Lions offense runs for 225 yards on you. Another team ran for 225 yards on you, on the Ravens, a team that is built on physicality, a team that is built on stopping the run on defense, a team that is built on always out-rushing their opponent. You let them go in and kill you in the trenches in this game. And it was embarrassing. So all of a sudden, after that drive, I'm not going to lie, after that drive, it was looking very, very bad in this game, because after that drive, there was only like 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and the drive started with a minute left in the first quarter. So they milked all that time off the clock. It didn't look good, and it looked even worse when the Ravens had their next drive to try and go and respond. They got all the way down the field. Obviously, the big pass deep to Devontae Walker at the 5. So all of a sudden, the Ravens are sitting at the 3-yard line. Derrick Henry gets a 2-yard run, and then Derrick Henry gets a no gain. Then Derrick Henry runs for -1 yards, and then obviously the Lamar Jackson sack. And those are the 4 straight plays. Obviously, Derrick Henry run, Derrick Henry run, Derrick Henry run, Lamar Jackson pass. We don't get the touchdown when we get down to the 3-yard line, thanks to Devontae Walker. So when Devontae Walker caught that ball, I thought for sure the Ravens were going to get in, because the Lions' defense was looking very shaky at that point. But obviously, they don't get in, and it was disappointing. And then it was a turnover on downs. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, wait, this game can like really get out of hand quick. But then the Ravens defense actually got a stop here. They forced a punt on the Lions with like 28 seconds left, like 28 seconds left in the quarter. Oh, sorry, no, there was like a minute left. The Lions ended up punting the ball with like a minute left in the second quarter. It was a drive that only lasted like 28 seconds. So the Ravens got the ball with all 3 of their timeouts with like a minute left in the game. So the Ravens had a chance to go down and actually, score, kick. I was hoping for the Ravens to maybe get a field goal going into half, because the Ravens did get the ball at half. And the Ravens, on a 4-play, 49-yard touchdown drive, ended up actually getting a touchdown here going into halftime, which was really, really cool to see. And this made me feel a hell of a lot better about the game, because after this long touchdown drive and after the turnover on downs, it was looking very, very grim for this Ravens team. But they ended up responding here with this touchdown. Lamar had... he scrambled for 13 yards, then he had a pass to Justice Hill for 4 yards. And again, the Ravens actually started this drive on like the 50-yard line because of a penalty because of the Lions, and also the ball was kicked out of bounds, so the ball was automatically placed at the 40, and there was a penalty, so it ended up being at the 50. So the ball was sitting at the 49-yard line, and the Ravens were in great field position to go potentially score a touchdown or get some sort of points. Again, Lamar ended up driving them down the field. There was a pass interference penalty that was like a 16-yard pass interference penalty that ended up putting the Ravens on the 3-yard line, and then Lamar Jackson had a touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman to end up tying the game 14-14. Jake Bates ended up missing like a 67-yard field goal, which would have been the NFL record. But the Ravens scored a touchdown before half. You go into halftime, it was 14-14. You kind of just forget anything that happened in the first half. You get the ball to start the second half. You got to go win this half of football, and you'll win the game. That was kind of the mentality. So the Ravens got the ball to start the third quarter, and the Ravens have an 11-play, 6-minute, 73-yard touchdown drive to start the second half. And the Ravens went up 21-14 just like that. All of a sudden, the Ravens scored 14 unanswered points. Lamar Jackson had a great drive down the field, and it was the passing touchdown to Mark Andrews. It was an incredible catch for him. Obviously, he had a great game, but the Ravens ended up marching down the field, going up 21-14 in this game. Then we give the ball back to the Lions. They immediately, in 3.5 minutes, have a 60-yard touchdown drive to tie the game 21-21. Then you're like, okay, we're going to have to score 40 points to win this game, which we literally would have had to score pretty much 40 points to win this game now looking back at it. But the Ravens scored a touchdown to open up the half, went up 21-14. The Lions immediately tied the game. Then the Ravens punted, 3 plays, 0 yards, minute and a half. Lamar Jackson, again, extreme pressure on him, punted the ball. Then the Lions got the ball again, 7-play, 96-yard touchdown drive that only lasted 3 minutes. And the reason why it only lasted 3 minutes is because basically, once again, shout out to Jordan Stout, shout out to the Ravens special teams, put the Lions on their own 4. So earlier in the game, the Lions were put on their own 2, and now the Lions were put on their own 4. So that's back-to-back times where the Ravens pinned their opponent inside their own 5. And on both of those times, the Ravens ended up just letting them completely and utterly just drive down the field. Again, the Ravens pinned the Lions inside the 5 twice. The results of that were a 98-yard touchdown drive and a 96-yard touchdown drive. And those are two moments in this game that really, really stood out. Those were the two most important drives of the game for the Lions, being able to have a 96-yard touchdown drive and a 98-yard touchdown drive in this game. On the road as well, shout out to them. Those were the two most important drives of the game for the Lions. That kind of did change the game. David Montgomery had a 72-yard run on this drive, and it literally looked like the Ravens couldn't stop anything. It looked like they couldn't stop a middle school team. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop the run. It was looking horrible at the start of the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, the Lions went up 28-21, and the Lions had a 7-point lead. The Ravens ended up getting the ball back. They moved down the field, had some offensive line issues, couldn't get as many yards as you maybe wanted. Lamar really couldn't look downfield like he wanted to do. And we ended up getting in field goal range and kicking a field goal, and it was 28-24. It was all on the defense to go get a stop. They ended up forcing a stop, forcing a punt. And then right when the Ravens defense forced a punt, you could kind of feel the momentum start to turn a little bit. The defense has been playing bad all day. They forced a punt out of the Lions. The Lions punted the ball back to the Ravens. The Ravens got the ball down by 4. The Ravens got the ball down by 4 with about 8.5 minutes left in the game. Plenty of time to go score a touchdown and take a lead. And on the first play of that drive to go potentially take the lead, Derrick Henry fumbled the ball on his own 21-yard line. And then the Lions ended up actually getting a field goal on that next drive. So the fumble didn't necessarily lead to the Ravens being completely down and out, but it did take a possession away from the Ravens, and it was a possession where they could have gone and taken the lead. That's why it was so important. Shout out to the defense here on back-to-back drives to kind of hold them here. But again, 4 plays, the Lions ended up kicking a field goal. It was 31-24. It was a 7-point game. It was still winnable. We could still tie the game and maybe potentially go into overtime. But that Derrick Henry fumble took a possession away from the Ravens. And when you get a possession taken away from you in a back-and-forth high-scoring game, it affects you so much. It's the exact same thing like in that Bills game. But Derrick Henry fumbled. The Lions ended up getting a field goal out of it. All of a sudden, it's 31-24. Then the Ravens, this was really the drive to kind of go do it. This was the drive to go and try and win the game. And it ended up being a 3-play, 2-minute, 1-yard drive. And the Ravens ended up having a punt because the drive started off. Lamar Jackson sacked for 6 yards immediately. Then Lamar Jackson had a short pass to Justice Hill as he's sitting there running around in the pocket, running for his life. Just kind of had to pass it to Justice Hill because that was the only guy he could even get the ball to. Then all of a sudden it's 3rd and 12. Lamar ended up snapping the ball, looking, trying to make something happen, couldn't find anyone downfield, felt the pressure, kind of had to escape some people, be Houdini, run for his life, and only ran for 3 yards. And we ended up having a punt because there was still 4.5 minutes left in the game, still the 2-minute warning, still all of our timeouts, so we still could have gotten the ball back if the Ravens defense could have gotten a stop. And much like the entire game has gone so far, the Ravens defense, of course, doesn't get a stop when the game is really, really, really on the line. And Lions have a 7-play, 70-yard touchdown drive to go up 38-24. The Ravens still had their timeouts. They still had a chance to win this game with a potential onside kick. The Ravens ended up having a 65-yard touchdown drive to make it 38-30, and then they ended up losing the game 38-30. A game that was back and forth early, some missed opportunities, obviously, with this turnover on downs and the fumble. Those were I guess the fumble was a big self-inflicted wound, but the turnover on downs and the fumble were the two things that the Ravens did in this game on offense that really did affect them. They could have done even better. But when you score 30 points in a game, a lot of the time that's going to be enough, or really close to enough, and it was close to enough in this game. But the turnover on downs, missing out on that touchdown, not getting any points on that drive, and also Derrick Henry fumbling a possession away on the first play of that possession, that really did affect this game for the Ravens. And again, the defense just did not help out at all. They gave up 38 points in this game, a complete disaster class on defense. Offensively, had some miscues, but overall, for a majority of the game, especially in the second half, Lamar Jackson would snap the ball, look for someone open downfield, would have to kind of scramble out of it, look downfield while he's doing that. There was Lions defenders all on him, and while a lot of other times defenders will chase after Lamar Jackson, he would almost get sacked and Lamar will end up pulling off some magic. The Lions defense did a really good job in terms of wrapping down Lamar Jackson in this game and getting him down on the ground and getting those sacks. But again, as I've said before, Lamar would snap the ball. He would look downfield for a play to develop. Something maybe wouldn't develop. He would try and do something himself. And by the time that thought even came to his mind, he would get sacked. And there was some sacks in this game where Lamar would get sacked like pretty much instantly. Like he would, snap would happen, gets the ball, has to already immediately back up, and then he puts himself in danger by backing up and then gets sacked. Or there'll be sometimes where he snaps the ball, looks the ball downfield for like 2 seconds, can't really find anything, tries to maybe scramble out, make time for a play to develop, and then get sacked. So overall, the offensive line did not help out Lamar Jackson at all. The offensive line did not help out Derrick Henry at all. I understand the fumble. I understand that, but he was a complete non-factor for the rest of the game because the offensive line couldn't make any sort of holes for anybody, couldn't protect Lamar, couldn't help Derrick Henry, and also the defensive line in this game for the Ravens on the defensive end. Obviously, they let the secondary-wise, they let the Lions just charge down the field. The run defense and the pass defense, the run defense and the pressure in general just let the rushing just go all over them. Again, 224 yards on the ground. The run defense for the Ravens in this game was horrible. The pass defense was horrible. The secondary was horrible. And the pass rush was also horrible because the Ravens had 0 sacks in this game while Lamar had 7 sacks. And you lose by only 8 points in a game that felt like you really were out of it. It really felt like the Lions were kicking you around, but the Ravens still were able to find ways to stay in this game thanks to Lamar Jackson doing his thing and putting his team in position to win. But again, the offensive line playing bad and just the defense playing horrible. It was too much for this Ravens team to overcome, and they ended up losing 38-30. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. I understand this episode is really long. We've been recording here for 51 minutes now. Obviously, we ranted about the Ravens game. We talked all about the game, everything about that stuff. In tomorrow's episode, we obviously are going to go over the Orioles game that's happening, and we're also going to be talking about some post-game press conferences that go on today, and also any sort of media stuff that goes on tomorrow. So we're going to go over all of that and more in tomorrow's episode. Obviously, we do play Kansas City on Sunday, so a little bit of a short week here for the Ravens to prepare. Obviously playing on Monday Night Football, but very, very, very disappointing loss. Very embarrassing loss. The Lions go on the road in your own home and completely beat you in the trenches, which is supposed to be your identity. So kind of lose a little bit of your pride a little bit in this game. Obviously, the Derrick Henry fumble sucks. It really does suck to see him now have a fumble in 3 straight games and him losing 2 fumbles in those 3 games, and those 2 fumbles being fumbles that end up being in the fourth quarter and also on your own side of the field. So it really does affect and put the Lions or put the opposing team in good field position. So that sucks for Derrick. It's starting to worry me a little bit. It's kind of like one of those, like, what happened to my GOATs? What happened to my GOAT-like moments, seeing Derrick Henry do this. But we understand he's an incredible rusher, but these fumbles are becoming a little bit worrisome because it is putting the Ravens not in good position to win games late, like they did against Buffalo, like they did against the Lions today. But the Ravens wouldn't necessarily have to be in that bad of a position or in a super intense situation late in the game if the defense was not so unbelievably bad. So we'll talk more tomorrow about my thoughts on Zach Orr. I mean, I think he's a horrible defensive coordinator. I think last year, he was horrible. I thought that as the year went on, he started to get a little bit better defensively, and the Ravens kind of found an identity on defense late in the season. But still, last year was a mess on defense in terms of the big plays. In the secondary. This year, it's like the exact same problem. We're dealing with some injuries, pass rush and D-tackle-wise in Madubuike and Calvin Noy, so it's making the run defense even worse and the pass rush even worse, and the secondary, and it leads to the secondary. It's just a complete mess on the Ravens defense. And again, the thing that's frustrating about it is the Ravens have all of the star level talent on defense, the first round talent, the steals of the draft, the all pros, the Pro Bowlers, all that. They have all of that stuff on defense, but it really is this game. I mean, you can see it when players are made. When there's certain players in this game that are forced to make individual plays, a lot of the time they do make them. It's just the scheme is so horrible, and like you can't even point necessarily just at the players when you have a like on the 96-yard touchdown drive and the 98-yard touchdown drive. Like, that is unacceptable no matter what defense or how good your defense is on paper, no matter how bad your defense is on paper. That right there, with your special teams pinning the opposing team inside the 5-yard line twice and them scoring 98 and 96-yard touchdown drives, that is insane. That is like actually ridiculous. And again, I'm sure the Ravens players post game, I'm about to like check it out right now, but we'll talk about it more tomorrow. But John Harbaugh, I'm sure, is gonna hopefully hold these guys accountable. I mean, I don't know why I said I'm sure. He really doesn't hold people accountable ever. But something needs to be fixed. These Derrick Henry fumbles needs to be fixed. This offensive line needs to do a better job. This Ravens defense in general, from the pass rush to the secondary to the linebackers to everything, this defense needs to do better. The O-line needs to do better, and the Derrick Henry fumbles need to be fixed as well going into Kansas City, on the road in Kansas City. A 1-2 Kansas City team that does not look good against a 1-2 Ravens team that their offense is literally leading the league in scoring right now, but unfortunately their defense is also god-awful. So next week's game against the Chiefs is going to be interesting. It's probably going to be very frustrating because every time you play Patrick Mahomes, it is very frustrating. But we're facing a Chiefs team that does not look good in the slightest at all. So, in a way, I want to say we're playing the Chiefs at their lowest. They are probably going to get Xavier Worthy back, which is going to be a problem. But we're playing a Chiefs team that looks really bad, and I really just hope that the Chiefs don't decide to magically figure it out. But they probably will, because I'm not going to lie. You can put this defense in front of any team, and they'll end up figuring it out and playing well. But this Ravens defense, again, is a big issue. We're playing Kansas City, who has struggled. I trust our offense to go out there and score and do their thing. I just hope that the pass rush can hold Lamar up and give him the opportunity to actually go win the game for us and put points on the board. But I'm just worried about our defense and facing Patrick Mahomes, man. I'm just scared of what he's going to do to our defense. I don't care what pass catchers are on the field for the Ravens or for the Chiefs. I mean, good quarterbacks will find a way to and good coaches and good quarterbacks will find a way to absolutely slice through this Ravens defense. So they got to really step it up next week. The offensive line's got to step it up, and hopefully the Ravens can win next week, move to 2-2, and move forward from there. But we'll talk about this Chiefs game throughout the week. Obviously, any sort of practices we'll go over. And then obviously this is also the last week of Orioles baseball for the season. There's a 3-game series at home starting tomorrow against the Rays in Baltimore. That starts tomorrow, which we're going to go over, obviously. And then the final series of the year is going to be this weekend in New York facing the Yankees. So the last week of Orioles baseball starts tomorrow. Obviously, the Ravens game is disappointing today. We're also going to go over Ravens stuff throughout the week as well. And I'll see you guys the next one. You have a great rest of y'all's day. Go Ravens, go O's, and I'll see you later. Peace out.